All right, let's jump right in. We're going to talk about a hidden world that's, well, it's pretty much everywhere. It's on us, it's in us, it's all around us. I'm talking about the world of microbes. And these tiny little organisms basically run the planet. And as we're about to see, they have two very different sides to them.
So, when you hear the word microbe, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's germs, sickness, disease. But what if I told you that that's not even half the story? In fact, it's a pretty tiny part of the whole picture.
Okay, so to really get a handle on this, let's try an analogy that you're probably holding right now. Think about the whole microbial world, like it's your smartphone. You've got all these different programs running, right? Some are those super useful apps you use every day, the ones you can't live without. And then, you've got the other stuff, the nasty malware that's just trying to crash your whole system.
And we're going to run with this smartphone idea for this whole explainer, because it works really well. You've got microbes that are like your essential utilities. You know, the calculator, the Maps app, all those little background processes that just make everything run smoothly. And then you've got the others, the ones that are like computer viruses and malware, just draining your battery and messing everything up.
So let's kick things off with the good guys, the essential apps of the microbial world. These are the microorganisms that are always working behind the scenes, doing jobs that are, and I mean this literally, absolutely critical for life as we know it.
Okay, first up, ever stop to wonder what's actually happening inside your yogurt? Well, say hello to Lactobacilli. Now, the sciencey bit is that they're anaerobic bacteria, which just means they're happy in places with no oxygen. And they have this one amazing trick. They eat the sugar in milk, which is called lactose, and they turn it into lactic acid.
And that simple chemical reaction, that's the whole magic trick. That conversion from sugar to acid is exactly what makes the milk get thick and gives yogurt that signature tangy taste. Yep, without this little microbe, your yogurt would just be, well, a sad bowl of milk.
All right, let's step out of the kitchen for a second and look at the soil under our feet. Our next essential app is called Rhizobium. These guys are incredible. They actually team up with plants and live right there in their roots. And their big job? It's called nitrogen fixation. They literally pull nitrogen out of the thin air and turn it into a natural fertilizer that plants can use to grow.
So, thinking back to our smartphone analogy, Rhizobium is like one of those vital background utilities. You never see it, it's not a flashy app you open up, but without it, the whole system would just grind to a halt. We're talking about huge parts of agriculture and our natural world. It's just quietly working 24/7, keeping the soil rich and our plants growing strong.
And now for one that I am positive you've heard of, yeast. Yep, yeast is a microbe. It's a little single-celled fungus, and it is an absolute master of fermentation. We humans have been working with this little guy for thousands of years, and for two of our absolute favorite things, baking bread and brewing beer.
Seriously, it's the perfect example of microbial power in action. When you're making bread, the yeast eats the sugars in the flour and basically burps out carbon dioxide gas. And all those little gas bubbles are what get trapped in the dough, making it rise and giving us that amazing, light, fluffy texture we love. It's such a simple process, but the result is, well, delicious.
Okay, but we know it's not all delicious bread and tangy yogurt, right? For every useful app on your phone, there's always the risk of some malware trying to mess things up. And it's the same here. While some microbes are amazing builders, others are just ruthlessly efficient at tearing things down. So now let's look at the dark side, the malware of the microbial world.
So these disease-causing microbes, the scientific name for them is pathogens. They come in a bunch of different forms. You've got fungi, which can cause stuff like ringworm. You've got bacteria, like Clostridium, which is a big cause of food poisoning. And then, of course, you've got the really famous ones, viruses. They're responsible for everything from the common flu to AIDS. And there are even tiny protozoa, which cause horrible diseases like malaria. It's a pretty dangerous lineup.
So, if the world is just swimming with all this microbial malware, how on earth do we protect ourselves? Well, just like with your phone, our bodies have their own built-in defense systems. You can think of it as a kind of biological antivirus software.
And honestly, the analogy holds up so well here. On your phone, what do? You install a firewall. You get some antivirus software. For your body, your firewall is just good hygiene, washing your hands, things like that. But when some of that malware gets past the firewall, that's when we call in the heavy hitters, antibiotics.
So what exactly is an antibiotic? Well, they're basically these powerful little compounds that can either kill harmful microbes outright or just stop them from growing. But here's the craziest, most fascinating part. A lot of our best antibiotics, think of penicillin, the famous one, they're actually made by other microbes. I'll say that again. We're using good bacteria and fungi to make weapons that fight off the bad bacteria. How cool is that?
And that right there, that brings us to what is probably the most important point of this whole thing. This isn't some simple story of good guys versus bad guys, useful versus harmful. It's not that black and white. It's really a story about balance.
You see, the goal isn't to just wipe out all microbes and live in some sterile bubble. Honestly, that would be a complete disaster. The real key to being healthy, for us personally and for the whole planet, is to encourage a strong, healthy community of the good microbes. Because when they're thriving, they help keep the bad ones in check. To use our analogy one last time, it's about managing your apps, not just wiping the entire phone.
And that leaves us with a final, really critical question to chew on. Everything from our own gut health to the health of the planet's oceans and soils, it all depends on this incredibly delicate microbial balance. So, in an age where we use antibiotics and hand sanitizers for everything, what actually happens when we push that system too far out of balance? What are the consequences? That's definitely something we're thinking about.